When you think about survival on the frontier, most people imagine hunting, shelter or fire. Rarely does water come to mind as the silent, decisive factor in life or death. Yet, for early American settlers, fur trappers and explorers, securing clean, reliable water wasn't just a convenience, it was a skill honed to perfection, a secret method so effective that it remained in practice long after frontier life gave way to modern plumbing. This method, largely forgotten today, allowed people to live in remote wilderness with minimal supplies, no filtration equipment, and zero modern conveniences. Understanding it isn't just history. It's a critical skill every modern prepper, hiker, or off-grid enthusiast can apply to guarantee safe water in a pinch. Let's dive into this secret frontier water technique, why it works so reliably, and how you can adapt it today without relying on bottles, filters, or chemicals. The frontier water method was based on observation and natural purification. Early trappers and explorers understood a simple but powerful principle. Moving water is almost always safer than stagnant water, but even moving water can harbour pathogens if handled incorrectly. The secret they discovered was layering observation with natural filtration. Instead of blindly scooping from rivers, they studied water behaviour, current speed, sediment levels, and signs of animal activity, to identify sources with the least contamination risk. They also relied heavily on natural purification techniques. Gravel beds, sand, and charcoal from hardwood fires were combined to create rudimentary filters. These filters didn't remove every microorganism, but they reduced turbidity and trapped sediment while allowing clean water to flow through. Settling containers, where water was left undisturbed to let particles fall to the bottom, were often used in combination with sand-charcoal filtration to produce safe drinking water over time. To replicate this today, collect river or stream water in a wide container, allow it to settle for several hours, and then pour it through layers of sand and charcoal. This method reduces bacteria and sediment before boiling. Modern preppers can take it a step further by combining this with solar disinfection, using clear containers exposed to sunlight for several hours, mimicking frontier ingenuity with today's understanding of UV sterilization. They understood that boiling alone wasn't enough without prior sediment removal. Boiling is one of the most recommended modern techniques for water safety, but frontier knowledge emphasized that boiling heavily sedimented water was inefficient and, honestly, pretty unpleasant. Settling and filtering first meant less fuel was required, and the taste improved drastically. Early explorers carried iron pots, but instead of filling them with murky river water, they first passed it through primitive filters of cloth, charcoal, and sand. Only after this process did the water go over fire, reducing contaminants while conserving energy, a critical concern when fuel sources were limited in the wilderness. You can apply this lesson today in any off-grid or survival scenario. Before you reach for your camping stove or portable burner, filter the water first. Use cloth or coffee filters to remove coarse debris, follow with charcoal or sand, then boil for at least 1 minute at a rolling boil. This mirrors the frontier technique of combining layered purification steps with minimal resources, a method that ensured survival in harsh, fuel-scarce environments. What many modern preppers overlook is the frontier practice of mineral-based purification. Certain rocks and soils were recognized to have mild antibacterial properties or the ability to improve taste and reduce turbidity. Settlers often dropped small amounts of crushed limestone granite or sandstone into containers to aid in sediment settlement and reduce acidity. Charcoal, as mentioned, was a multi-purpose agent that not only filtered but also neutralized odors and trapped microorganisms. So, to bring this practice into a modern context, you might consider maintaining a small supply of charcoal and natural mineral stones for water treatment. Activated charcoal, for example, can be made from hardwood that's heated in a low-oxygen environment and then used in filters. Crushed limestone or granite can settle in water containers to help clarify the water. These steps, tested by early Americans, are honestly pretty simple, low-tech and effective. Beyond filtration, frontier settlers really understood water sourcing as a long-term strategy. They dug wells, built diversion channels, and constructed small catchment basins to accumulate rainwater and river overflow. They often selected slightly elevated collection points near streams, making sure gravity-fed flow would direct water to settle points or storage barrels. This approach reduced labour, exposure to animals, and the risk of contamination. Even during winter, they would carve ice blocks and let them melt slowly for a controlled water supply. Modern preppers can totally emulate this by creating small, gravity-fed collection systems for rainwater or natural runoff. A tarp angled toward a barrel or container does a great job of mimicking the frontiersman's catchment basin, providing a continuous, low-effort water source. Layering filtered gravel and charcoal in the collection barrel really improves safety and taste, ensuring that this historical technique remains viable in both contemporary urban and rural survival scenarios. Frontier life was unpredictable. A river could dry up, a stream could flood, and, well, a source could become contaminated. That's why explorers always maintained multiple water points and rotated their use. Water containers were regularly cleaned, sediment was removed, and filters were replaced daily. This attention to maintenance meant that even when one source became compromised, a secondary source was ready, essentially an early form of water risk management. You can apply this principle today by keeping more than one water source even in urban prepper setups. Store water in multiple containers, rotate use, and maintain basic filtration systems. The lesson from the frontier is clear. It's not enough to purify water once. You must sustain the system with ongoing care, observation, and adaptability. The secret frontier water method proves that survival is skill, not kit. The brilliance of this forgotten water method lies in its simplicity and reliability. Frontier settlers survived harsh winters, droughts and hostile environments with no chemical treatments, bottled water or high-tech filtration. They relied on observation, layered purification, mineral aids, and system redundancy, a method that every modern prepper can learn from. By combining sediment settling, sand-charcoal filtration, boiling, mineral additives, and gravity-fed collection, you create a resilient, low-tech water supply that works in almost any environment. This isn't just history. It's practical survival wisdom distilled over centuries, proven in the most challenging conditions. If this guide to the secret frontier water method sharpened your understanding of historical survival and gave you actionable strategies for today, subscribe to Echoes of Valor, share it with fellow history and prepper enthusiasts, and continue exploring the techniques that kept our ancestors alive when modern conveniences didn't exist. The past still has the answers we need for tomorrow.